Have you ever felt like your own mind is sabotaging you? Like instead of helping you, it's pushing you toward the edge? The truth is harsh. You don't need enemies on the outside if you've got an out-of-control mind on the inside. But here's the twist. That very same mind, if you master it, can become your most powerful weapon. It's all up to you. Are you going to let it destroy you? Or are you going to train it to take you straight to success? Imagine waking up every day with a clear, steady mind, one that's unshakable. A mind that doesn't get swept away by fear, by doubt, or by anger. In this video, I'll show you how to turn that fantasy into your reality, using the most powerful lessons from Stoicism. Because it's not about avoiding problems, it's about preparing yourself so that nothing can break you. We're going to dive into how the truly strong think, how they act when chaos hits, and what they do when the world tries to pull them down. If you're tired of living at the mercy of your negative thoughts and out-of-control emotions, this is the moment to take charge. You're about to discover that your mind can be your greatest ally, or your worst punishment. The choice is yours. Before we begin, let me tell you Bruno's story, because what happened to him might be happening to you without you even realizing it. Bruno had what looked like a stable life from the outside. 42 years old, a steady job as a maintenance technician at a hospital, 2 kids, a long-term partner of over 10 years. The kind of man who doesn't stand out, but who always shows up. The one who never complains, the one who endures. But what no one knew was that Bruno was at his breaking point on the inside. It all started with something as silly as a broken light bulb. Just an ordinary Tuesday. His youngest son threw a ball in the house and broke a lamp. Nothing serious. But Bruno exploded. He shouted. His hands were shaking. He said things he had never allowed himself to say out loud. And that night, he slept on the couch. What his partner told him the next day was what shook him. "I don't recognize you. It's like you've been bottling something up for years and now you just can't take it anymore." And she was right. Bruno couldn't take it anymore. Not because of the lamp, not because of work, not because of his son, but because of something much more dangerous. A mind spinning out of control. He had spent years swallowing everything, frustrations, disappointments, fears. He'd say he was fine, that it wasn't a big deal, that he could handle it. And every time he said that, he pushed himself a little closer to the edge. He started having anxiety attacks at work. His palms would sweat whenever someone asked him for something. He slept badly. He'd wake up in the middle of the night with a racing heart, convinced he'd forgotten something. His chest hurt. He went to the doctor. They told him everything was fine, but he knew it wasn't. One random Friday, Bruno left the hospital earlier than usual. He didn't have the strength to go home, so he wandered aimlessly through a nearby park. He just wanted air, silence, or maybe just to get away from himself for a while. And that's when he saw him, an older man sitting alone on a bench. He had a notebook on his lap and a couple of books beside him. He was dressed simply, but there was something about him that stood out. He was speaking out loud, reading, not to himself, but to anyone who passed by. Verses, reflections, excerpts from authors he had carefully chosen. Some people stopped to listen, others just looked at him with curiosity. Bruno walked by several times without stopping, until one of those times, the man stopped reading and looked at him. He gestured for him to come closer. Bruno hesitated but walked over. He thought the man would recite something to him, like he did with the others. But no. The man closed his notebook and handed him a folded piece of paper. He didn't say much, just, "This isn't poetry. But for me, it mattered more. Read it when you're alone." Bruno put it in his pocket. Didn't open it right away. Kept walking, a bit puzzled. But that night, when he got home, he unfolded it. In shaky handwriting, it read, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your judgment about it." Marcus Aurelius. He didn't quite understand what it meant, but the phrase stuck with him. The next day, he went back to the park. The man was on the same bench, as if he knew Bruno would return. This time he didn't read anything. They just talked. His name was Arturo, 74 years old, a former philosophy professor. He'd been retired for years, but every afternoon he came to that bench to read for strangers, a ritual that gave his life meaning. Bruno told him a bit about how he was feeling. Not everything, but enough. And Arturo, without pushing, spoke to him about Stoicism, about Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, about how he himself had overcome years of anxiety by writing down his thoughts every day, his reactions, his fears. Not to control everything, but to understand himself, to stop being a victim of his own mind. For weeks, Bruno kept visiting him. He learned to sit for 5 minutes before his shift and write in silence. Not pretty things, but honest ones. He learned to watch how he thought, to stop believing everything his mind was telling him. And little by little, he started noticing the change. The problems didn't disappear, but they stopped crushing him. Bruno didn't become a philosopher or a wise man, but he became someone who no longer falls apart every time life pushes him around. Because now his mind, instead of being his punishment, is his tool. And maybe, my friend, you need your own Arturo too, or at least a moment to stop and look at what you've got inside. Because sometimes the first step to changing your life isn't a big decision. It's a sentence on a forgotten piece of paper, a pause in the middle of the noise, or an unexpected talk with someone who's already been where you are. Before we go on, if this content is bringing you value, consider subscribing and becoming an exclusive member to unlock unique perks. And tell us in the comments, what part of your mind is sabotaging you the most right now? Or just write, "I'm a Stoic." Because today begins your fight to take back control. 1. Your biggest rival sleeps with you. Imagine living with someone who never leaves. Someone who's in your room the second you open your eyes. Sometimes they help you. They make you breakfast, remind you that you've got important things to do. But then there are days when, the moment your alarm goes off, they get to it first, shut it off, and pull the blanket back over you. They tell you you're tired, that it's no big deal if you skip today. They pull the blinds so you don't see the sunlight. And they do it so gently, so logically that you even thank them. What if I told you that roommate isn't someone else? It's your own mind. And no, you can't move out of it, my friend. But you can train it to live with you without sabotaging you. The problem is you don't realize that voice is dragging you down until you've been stuck for weeks. It gives you excuses with the skill of a seasoned lawyer. You don't have time. You're not ready. You're not going to get very far anyway. It doesn't shout, it whispers, and that's why it works. You think it's you, but it's not. It's a version of you that learned to be afraid, to procrastinate, to hide. Here's an example, and I say this clearly because I know you've lived it. You've decided to start going to the gym. You've got your workout clothes on. You're ready. You've even hyped yourself up with music in your headphones. But right before you leave, that little voice shows up. It's cloudy, it might rain, better go tomorrow. You didn't eat that bad today, it's not that urgent. And the worst part isn't that you say it. The worst part is that it sounds reasonable. It sounds smart. Because the mind that holds you back doesn't come with chains. It comes with logic, with justifications that feel comfortable, but slowly pull you under. And if all this sounds familiar, if you felt that voice draining your motivation, convincing you to stay still, making you doubt yourself just when you were about to begin, then that's exactly when you need to think like Epictetus. Yes, the same philosopher who lived as a slave and still never let anyone break him from within. Because Epictetus was clear, even if he couldn't control what happened around him, he could govern what happened inside his mind. He made it clear with a phrase you should have tattooed on your forehead every time your mind tries to sabotage you. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But no, this isn't just ancient philosophy. Modern science backs it up too. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford, puts it plainly. Many of our impulses and automatic habits don't come from a lack of willpower, but from a poorly trained reward system. In other words, it's not that you're weak. It's that your brain has gotten used to chasing the immediate, the easy, the thing that gives you a quick hit of relief, even if it wrecks you in the long run. So here's a direct question, and I want you to really think about it. Are you letting your mind build you or break you? Because that's the real root of everything you're living. Your mind can either be the engine that drives you forward or the weight that drowns you. How do you get it to play on your team? First, start your day by writing down a single intention. Nothing huge, something real and concrete. Today I move, even if I'm tired. Today I listen more than I speak. Just one sentence. That already focuses your mind on something you can actually control. Second, give that sabotaging voice a name. Don't overthink it. Call it whatever you want. The annoying brother-in-law, the drama queen, the failure coach. By giving it a name, you separate it from yourself. You see it as a character, not your identity. Third, respond to it with action. If your mind says you can't, don't argue. Get up and do 10 push-ups. Go walk for 10 minutes. Do one small task. The body doesn't need to argue with the mind. It corrects it in silence. Because in the end, that's the key. Your mind can be your worst saboteur or your best ally, and you're the one who decides. Every time you choose not to listen, every time you take action despite the doubt, you're making a vital decision. Because if you're not the one in charge of your mind, someone else will be. And believe me, that someone doesn't always want to see you win. 2. Stop negotiating with your mind. My friend, let's be real, because I know this has happened to you more times than you'd like to admit. You sit in front of your computer, open the tab with the report you need to finish, stretch a little, take a deep breath and say to yourself, okay, just 5 minutes on TikTok and then I'll start. 5 minutes. That's the promise. But 20 minutes later, you're watching a dog doing yoga, someone baking bread with no hands, and a guy dancing with a watermelon on his head. And the report? Oh, it's doing just fine, still untouched. Meanwhile, you're stuck in a mental trap disguised as a harmless break. Your mind doesn't shout. It negotiates. It shows up like your personal assistant. You're really tired today, you'll do better tomorrow. Just 10 more minutes in bed, you deserve it. Do the easy stuff first to warm up. But no, you're not warming up. You're spiraling into excuses dressed up as logic. And the more you give in, the more power that voice gets. Because every time you sit there debating with your own head, you lose. That's where Jay Alderton would cut straight to the point. I picture him peeking over your shoulder while you're on your 3rd video and saying, seriously? You're gonna let your day slip away like this? Because Jay, coming from the military world, doesn't negotiate with his mind. He says that when his alarm goes off at 5 in the morning, there's no discussion. He gets up, period. Cold outside? Tired? Doesn't matter. Because every time you give in on something small, your mind takes note. And next time, it'll be even easier to give in. It's like your brain keeps an invisible notebook. If you let it slack off on Monday, it'll ask for more on Tuesday. And by Wednesday, it won't even ask. It'll just take it. Marcus Aurelius, despite carrying the weight of an empire, left us a phrase perfect for those moments when you're about to delay everything. Do every act of your life as though it were the last. Think about it. If today were your last chance to act, would you really want to spend it watching fridge organization videos? What you often don't realize is that this inner negotiation isn't harmless. It's like opening the door to a thief, one who comes with excuses. And the worst part? You're the one offering him coffee and clearing his path. Because when you're not the one deciding, your impulse is. And that impulse doesn't want your success. It wants your comfort. So what could you do next time your mind starts negotiating? Write down, big and bold, exactly what you're going to do, even if you don't feel like it. Like a contract with yourself. Because once your mind tries to convince you there are better plans, it's already decided. The deal is closed. Try something else that might sound silly but works. When your mind starts making excuses, laugh. Really, laugh out loud. Like what it's saying is ridiculous, because it is. Humor breaks the loop of repetitive thought, and it reminds you that that voice only has power if you give it power. And if you're thinking, yeah, but I have such a hard time starting things, then remember this. If something takes less than 2 minutes, do it without thinking. Don't negotiate, don't analyze, just do it. Get up, wash the dish, send the email. Because all that time you spend debating could have already been enough to finish it. Sometimes thinking about doing something takes more energy than just doing it. Your mind doesn't need motivation. It needs direction. And if you keep opening the negotiation table every morning hoping to win, get ready. You'll lose more often than you win. But if you learn to decide without waiting to feel ready, without asking permission from your laziness, your mind will stop being a roadblock and start pushing you forward. Because the one who decides builds. The one who hesitates too much always stays at the starting line. 3. Comfort is holding you back. There's a truth most people don't want to accept. When your mind isn't trained, it doesn't look for what makes you grow. It looks for what's easy, immediate, familiar. It sells you comfort as rest. But what it's really selling is stagnation. Because comfort isn't always what you need. Sometimes it's what keeps you stuck. Picture a carnivorous plant wrapping around you. At first it feels soft, cozy, even pleasant. You relax, you settle in. But little by little, without noticing, the leaves begin to close. You can't stretch out anymore, can't move, can't escape. That's how comfort works. It doesn't arrive with shouts. It arrives with caresses. It tells you, relax, you'll do it tomorrow, while each day it traps you a little more. And when you finally open your eyes, you realize you're still in the same place, only weaker. Marcus Aurelius understood this clearly. His philosophy wasn't made of pretty words, but of firm action. He said, do every act of your life as though it were the last. And he didn't say it to sound deep. He said it because he knew that if he gave in to immediate pleasure, if he fell into the trap of laziness, he'd be turning his back on his purpose. And you? How many times have you turned your back on yours for 5 minutes of rest? Picture this. You promised yourself you were going to eat healthier. It wasn't a whim. Your doctor warned you, your sugar levels are sky high, constant fatigue isn't normal, and the extra weight is taking a toll. You said this time you were serious. You were going to cook more at home, stay away from ultra-processed food, take care of your body. But nighttime comes. You're exhausted. You get home, kick off your shoes, and see the ingredients on the counter. Broccoli, brown rice, a chicken breast waiting for days. But you think, I've got to chop it, wash it, cook it. And your finger, almost on its own, opens the fast food app. Just today, you tell yourself, tomorrow I'll start. But tomorrow will be the same. Because, no, my friend, this isn't a lack of willpower. It's comfort in disguise. And that comfort is holding you back more than any real problem. And that's what happens to many. Their mind breaks them because they say, I've got nothing left in me, or I just need to disconnect. But hear this. There are people who've learned to master that escape reflex. People who, like you, also came home exhausted, unmotivated, full of excuses. The difference? They chose to stop obeying them. One of them, Alex Hormozy, always says, the thing you most need to do is usually the thing you least want to do. And he doesn't dress it up or sugarcoat it, because he knows that every time you choose the hard thing, the uncomfortable thing, you're building mental muscle. You'll see him working even when he hasn't slept well. Not because he has more energy than you, but because he stopped negotiating with his mind. The smartest thing you can do is eliminate temptation before it shows up. If you know you'll be too tired to cook when you get home, prep everything in advance. Chop the ingredients in the morning, cook extra and save portions, or even pay someone once a week to prep meals for you if you can. Remove the friction, and the habit becomes inevitable. Also, schedule a discomfort hour each day. 60 minutes where you do exactly what you always avoid. For example, right after dinner, instead of lying down, stretch for 10 minutes, spend 10 reading about nutrition, and 30 trying out simple recipes. Training your mind is most effective when you do it exactly when you don't feel like it, and change how you talk about it. Don't say, "This is hard for me." Say, "This is training me." When you're cooking while tired, don't see it as punishment. See it as an investment. Every steamed broccoli, every minute without sugar, is a brick in your mental fortress. Your mind can drive you to success or drown you in excuses, but that decision doesn't happen with big goals. It happens in those tiny moments when you choose between what's easy and what builds you. Now I want you to do something. Head to the comments and tell us what's the discomfort you're going to face today. Write it down and let this community support you. Because when you share it, it gets lighter. And when you act on it, you transform. 4. What you don't face controls you. My friend, not everything you ignore disappears. Sometimes it grows quietly, just like what happened to the man in this story I'm about to tell you. A farmer had a dog that barked non-stop every night at a dark corner of the barn. The farmer, tired of it, would yell at him to shut up, lock him up, scold him, but never stopped to check what was actually there. Over time, he started avoiding that side altogether, walking around it, even stopped storing things there. The dark corner began to dictate how he moved, what he did, and even the decisions he made. One day, that part of the barn collapsed. What had been there all along was a rat infestation, slowly gnawing away at the structure from the inside. The lesson? What you avoid eventually starts directing your life. What you don't face ends up controlling you, without you even noticing. And I'm telling you this from experience. For months, I carried a thorn no one could see. A friend owed me money. Not a huge amount, but just enough that every time I saw him talking about dinners out, shopping, or vacations, something boiled inside me. But I kept quiet, pretended nothing was wrong. Told myself it wasn't worth a fight, that I'd bring it up someday. The worst part wasn't the money. It was what was happening inside me. I'd go to bed and lie awake thinking about how to say it. I couldn't focus at work. In conversations, my mind would drift to that unresolved issue. I was there, but not really. I felt like an actor stuck in the same role. Everything looked fine on the outside, but inside there was a storm that wouldn't ease up. One day I listened to a talk by psychologist Julian Gutierrez. He said something that struck me hard. Fear isn't overcome by hiding it. It weakens when you approach it. The brain needs proof that you can handle what you fear. And in that moment, it clicked. It wasn't my friend who was controlling me. It was me. It was my silence, my fear of rejection, my urge to avoid discomfort. So I brought it up. Said it plainly, no sugarcoating. His reaction was lukewarm, like he didn't quite understand why it had affected me so much. But that's when I realized it wasn't about his response. It was about mine. I had finally said what had been burning inside. I had broken the cycle that had me stuck. That night I slept better than I had in weeks, because sometimes, my friend, 5 minutes of discomfort are worth more than months of silence. Seneca put it clearly with a quote few people mention, but it sums this all up in one line. If you flee from everything that makes you uncomfortable, you'll spend your life running. His philosophy wasn't about hiding pain, it was about transforming it, using it as a compass. What you're most afraid to face is usually what you most need to look at. And if your mind has been spinning around the same thing for a while, if there's that mental buzz that just won't go away, maybe you don't need more distractions. Maybe you just need to look it in the eye. So next time you catch yourself avoiding a thought, stop. Say it out loud. Name it. Speaking it with your own voice takes away part of the power it holds in your head. Another powerful way to face it is to write it down. No filter, no style. Just you, the page, and the truth. Get it all out. Leave nothing inside. And if you struggle to put it into words, shift the question. Instead of asking, "What's wrong with me?" ask, "What part of this don't I want to see?" Sometimes a different question opens the door you've been avoiding for days, months, or even years. Your mind doesn't need you to silence the pain. It needs you to look it in the eye. Because fear, like shadows, dissolves when you shine the light of truth on it. And if you keep avoiding that dark corner, don't be surprised when it all goes up in flames. Facing things isn't easy, but hiding is the fastest way to live controlled by what you're too scared to face. And you? What truth are you going to shine a light on today? Tell us in the comments which conversation, decision, or uncomfortable truth you're done avoiding. Write it like a declaration, because putting it into words is the first step toward facing it. 5. Your peace is worth more than your ego. Picture this. You're at work. Everything's going fine until, right in the middle of a meeting, you finally share that idea you've been working on for days. And just then, that colleague who always wants the spotlight cuts you off to correct you. And he doesn't do it gently, not at all. He makes sure everyone hears it, says it with a smug tone, even flashes a little grin while he's at it. He puts you on the spot. You feel that heat rising up your neck, the tightness in your chest, your hands clenching under the table. You start running through all the things you could say to him. Who does he think he is? Next time, you'll call out all his mistakes. You won't stay quiet. And that's the trap, because if you give in to that voice, you're not defending your dignity. You're following your ego. And your ego, my friend, isn't trying to help you win. It wants you to react. It wants drama. It wants noise. What it doesn't want is for you to think. But if in that moment you choose to stay silent, to breathe, to not take the bait, you're not doing it out of weakness. You're doing it out of wisdom. Who knows? Maybe your boss is watching. Maybe they see that you don't feed into the drama, that you don't get dragged down by impulses. And maybe that's what moves you closer to a promotion. Or even more important, maybe you get home with a calm mind, not replaying the scene over and over all night. Because sometimes success starts in that invisible moment when you choose peace over pride. And that right there, is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injustice." Because anyone can lash out from ego, but someone truly strong chooses not to become like the person who hurt them. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, in the middle of a battle, getting sidetracked by a personal insult, and redirecting his entire army because an enemy disrespected him. Ridiculous, right? But that's exactly what we do every day when we lose our cool over small stuff. When we let a comment, a critique, or a look throw off our entire state of mind. As Najwa Zebian, author of Welcome Home, puts it, sometimes letting it go is the most powerful way to heal. The people who radiate the most peace don't do it because everything goes their way. It's because they've stopped responding to every hit. They've learned not everything deserves a reaction. And that choosing silence is sometimes the most powerful way to protect your energy. Want to keep your mind in control in those moments? Try this. When you feel that surge of anger, that instant urge to snap back, take a deep breath and start counting backwards from 10, 9, 8, quietly. This small shift tricks your brain. It forces it to focus on something logical, numerical, ordered. It's like pulling the emergency brake on a downhill slope. It's not just a distraction. It actually interrupts the automatic reaction. And when you do that, it's no longer you responding with anger. It's your mind winning its first battle. Then ask yourself one brutally honest question. Will responding actually change anything? Will saying what you're thinking fix the problem? Or just make you feel like you stood your ground? Because sometimes we confuse strength with needing to prove it all the time. And no, my friend, that's not strength. That's a wounded ego. But if the anger's still there, there's an even more effective trick. Remove yourself physically. Go to the bathroom, take a walk around the block, climb the stairs if you have to. And no, this isn't about always staying silent or suppressing your feelings. It's about choosing when and how to act so your mind doesn't become a battlefield every time someone pokes your pride. Because the more you master that reaction, the more you own yourself. And that inner peace, that quiet strength, it's the foundation of a life that's stable, strong, and brave. 6. Your excuses are chaining you down. I'm not going out today because it's cloudy. I'll start on Monday. I need to feel inspired. I just don't have the right setup right now. It's cold, so I won't shower. I'll do it tomorrow. It sounds absurd when you hear it out loud, but if you stop and think, how many times have you told yourself something just as ridiculous to avoid doing what you know you need to do? That's the thing about excuses. They seem harmless, they stroke your ego, and they convince you it's better to stay put. And the more you repeat them, the more comfortable they become. Imagine them like a pair of shoes that at first feel padded, soft, perfect for walking through life without pressure. But over time you realize they're too tight. They rub, they cause blisters, and when you finally take them off, you see the marks they've left behind. That's what excuses do. They protect you, yes, but at the cost of holding you back. Musonius Rufus, one of the great Stoic teachers, made it crystal clear in a quote worth gold. The true philosopher is the one who does what is right, even when no one is watching. Because the problem with excuses isn't just that they slow you down, it's that they pull you away from yourself, from what you know you should be doing, from your own integrity. And that's the point. If you only do the right thing when someone's watching, or if you avoid it because you're afraid to fail, then you're not choosing freely. You're being dragged by your own mind, trained to retreat before you've even tried. And just like that, without noticing, you become someone who gives up before they've even started. Now picture this. You promised yourself that this month you'd finally get that project off the ground. You even have the first video halfway ready. You've got the idea, the script, the message. But when it's time to record, the buts show up. The lighting's not great. I don't have the right camera. Better to wait for the weekend. And you accept it, because it sounds reasonable, like a thoughtful decision. But if you're being honest with yourself, you know you've used that same excuse before. Many times, and every time you use it, you drift further away from what you really want to do. You know why this happens? As Spanish neurolinguist Luz Rayo explains, when an excuse gets repeated more than 3 times, it's no longer an explanation. It's a defense, a wall your mind builds to protect you from fear. Because deep down, you're not afraid of the lighting. You're afraid of being exposed, of having to prove your worth, of feeling vulnerable. But if you don't face it, that wall won't shrink. It'll keep growing. And here's where you need to make a real decision. Are you going to keep listening to that part of your mind that's chaining you down? Or are you going to teach it a new way? Because this is where everything begins, in what you think, what you feel, and what you decide each day. Your mind is either your engine or the brake that keeps you stuck. Ready to stop hiding behind excuses? Start with this. First, make a list, but a different kind of list. Write down everything you've put off this month. No filters, no fluff. And next to each one, write the exact excuse you used. Just doing this already opens your eyes, because seeing your justifications written out strips them of their power. It shows you they weren't reasons. They were fears dressed up in clever words. Second, make a commitment with someone else. Tell them exactly what you're going to do and when. Set a date, a time, and make sure they're there to witness it. Because when someone else is expecting it, your mind shifts. Later is no longer an option. You can't hide anymore. And here's the best part. When you do it, when you follow through, your mind takes note and starts training itself to move forward, not retreat. My friend, if every excuse were a stone, how many more are you going to carry before you can't move at all? Because every "I'll start tomorrow," every "not today," every "maybe later" piles up. And in the end, it's not that you can't move forward, it's that you've trained your mind to stop so often. It's forgotten how to move. 7. Failing is also moving forward. He was a kid who didn't really stand out. His grades were average, and when he decided he wanted to become a filmmaker, most people saw it as just another wild fantasy. He applied to one of the most prestigious film schools in the world. Rejected. Tried again. Another no, again. A third time. And still, nothing. But he didn't crumble. He snuck into a film studio, asked for a job like someone asking for a chance to breathe, and little by little earned the respect of the very people who once ignored him. That kid was Steven Spielberg, one of the most influential directors in history. And do you know what the key was? He didn't let rejection define what he was capable of, because instead of giving in, his mind got stronger. Every no became another rehearsal. That's how it works. The difference between those who stall and those who make it isn't usually talent or luck. It's how you interpret failure. If your mind takes it as a verdict, you freeze. But if you see it as feedback, you adjust your course. And you don't need to be Spielberg to learn this. Picture it. You're prepping for a job interview that really matters to you. You've reviewed all the questions, researched the company, even visualized yourself answering with confidence. You show up with your best, but they don't choose you. That night you feel hollow. You start telling yourself, "I'm not good enough. Something's wrong with me." You feel hurt and ashamed. You don't even tell your friends. Because to you, that failure wasn't just a step. It was a direct hit to the ego. And your mind turns it into an emotional wound that anchors you, clouds your next steps, and kills your creative drive. But my friend, don't you see? Failing isn't falling apart. Failing is fine-tuning. It's like each mistake is a compass pointing you. Not this way, but you're close. It reminds me of something I heard Silvia Olmedo say. When you avoid mistakes, you also avoid the chance to really know yourself. Because only when you mess up do you see how strong you are to try again. That quote turned everything around for me, because that's when I understood it's not about avoiding failure. It's about being ready not to break when it happens. So, do you want to train your mind to move you closer to success even when you fail? Then start with something few people ever do. Make a list of your mistakes from the past year. Nothing fancy. Just write down what went wrong. Simple as that. For example, I gave up on my business idea halfway through. I distanced myself from someone important out of pride. I passed on a job opportunity because I was scared. Writing it down stings, yes, but it also brings clarity. It shows your mind that you're not running away. Then, next to each one, write down what you learned or what you did differently afterward. What did you realize from quitting that project? Maybe it wasn't about lacking resources, but consistency. What did losing that person teach you? That sometimes apologizing in time is worth more than being right. And what about that job? That the fear of not being ready can rob you of more than any failure ever could. And if you haven't learned anything yet, leave it blank. But don't cross it out or erase it. That mark on the page will be your reminder. This is still a place where you can grow. Your mind can't push you toward success if every time you stumble, you let it punish you. Failing is still moving forward. If you learn to walk with feet full of scars, because every scar proves you tried, that you moved, that you didn't stay stuck. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. Just because something seems hard doesn't mean no one can achieve it. What's hard doesn't define you. What defines you is what you do in spite of it. Because, my friend, if every time you fail, you grow stronger, then every step, even the shaky ones, brings you closer to the most powerful version of yourself. 8. Train your mind every day. You're not going to be able to handle everything today. You're overwhelmed, exhausted, you won't perform. What if you mess it up again? That's how it starts. It doesn't sound loud, it doesn't scream, but it sinks in. That's anxiety speaking softly from the moment you open your eyes. You wake up with a tight chest. Everything irritates you. Nothing feels clear. You grab a quick coffee, open Instagram looking for a distraction, but it doesn't help. Nothing changes. You wonder why if everything felt fine yesterday. But the truth is, my friend, it didn't just show up. That anxiety didn't arrive today. It built up while you were doing nothing to strengthen your mind. And now that you need it, it's weak. It's like wanting to run a marathon without training a single day. Picture it. By kilometer 3, you're out of breath, your legs hurt, you want to give up. Not because you're incapable, but because you never prepared your body. And your mind works exactly the same way. You can't expect it to hold you up in chaos if you've neglected it for months. Because the mind, like a muscle, needs repetition, commitment, and discipline. You don't train it on the day everything collapses. You train it when everything seems fine. Mental training begins in the moments that usually go unnoticed, like a random Wednesday afternoon when you get home and, instead of turning on the TV, you choose 5 minutes of silence to listen to what you're thinking. Or a Saturday morning when, instead of checking your phone first thing, you decide to write how you want to respond to challenges today. That's the real practice, not the big flashy stuff, the daily stuff. Because that's where your mind begins to shift. Seneca made it clear, watch over your thoughts, for they will become your character. What you think again and again, what you allow or choose to reinforce ends up shaping your decisions, your emotions, your whole life. If you keep repeating that you can't, that you're too tired, that it's too much for you, your mind will believe it. But if each day you show it through actions and that you're capable of pausing, of choosing, of observing, then it will learn to support you even on the darkest days. There are simple but powerful ways to train it. For example, when you wake up, write for 5 minutes about how you want to act that day. Not how you feel, but how you decide to behave. Do you want to be patient, brave, consistent? Write it down. Remind yourself. That simple step sharpens your focus and connects you with intention. Another effective strategy. Choose one calming action and repeat it every time you feel overwhelmed. Always the same one. It could be walking for 10 minutes without your phone, taking 5 deep breaths, or just drinking a glass of water while looking out the window. The action itself isn't the point. It's the repetition. Just like your body recognizes a routine, your mind will too. And if you want to go a little deeper, dedicate 3 minutes a day to simply observing your breath. Don't try to control it. Don't aim for anything. Just observe. At first, your mind will wander. That's normal. But over time, that practice becomes an anchor, a refuge, and when chaos hits, you won't react the same way, because you'll have trained another way to be present. My friend, your mind is the root of everything. It can be the engine that drives you toward the life you dream of, or the weight that keeps you stuck. And the difference isn't made with a single inspirational quote or a 5-minute video. It's made in what you do every day, in what you repeat, in what you choose to practice even when there's no urgency. Because in the end, your mind will only be as strong as what you repeat daily. The difference doesn't show up in big moments. It's built in the small ones. Train it like your life depends on it, because at many points, it will. And if you feel like your mind has gotten used to reacting without thinking, to sabotaging you just when you need to move forward the most, maybe it's time to take the next step. Check out the video now showing on screen. It'll show you how to take back control. And who knows, maybe you'll realize you always had it. You just weren't using it. 9. Silence also commands. Have you ever noticed how often you speak just to avoid feeling the emptiness? Or how you reply to something without thinking, simply because you can't stand staying quiet? In a world where everyone wants to have an opinion, justify, attack, or have the last word, staying silent is one of the most powerful ways to show strength. And no, we're not talking about bottling things up or pretending nothing gets to you. We're talking about choosing when your energy is worth more than a response. Picture this. You're at a family dinner. Your brother-in-law, with that smile you know all too well, throws a little jab about your job. Casual, offhand, but it lands. It hits you. You feel your face heat up, your stomach tighten. You think about letting it go, but you can't. This time you tell yourself you're not staying quiet. So you shoot back a witty, sharp line, elegant, but laced with venom. He laughs. Someone else jumps in to defend him. The table gets tense, you play it off like nothing happened. But inside you're at war. You didn't win. You just fed the chaos. That night you can't sleep. You replay every word. Think of better comebacks. Wonder if everyone thought you looked bad. And the next day you're drained, distracted. All because your mind couldn't hold steady. Because you confused reacting with commanding. And my friend, a strong mind doesn't need to shout to be heard. It just needs to stay calm. Epictetus said it clearly centuries ago. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all, because a strong mind doesn't react to the first thing thrown at it. A strong mind chooses, it filters, it decides. It understands that every time it steps into a pointless argument, it's letting someone else take control of its peace. And listen, if Epictetus could stay silent as a slave, with every reason to scream, you can absolutely skip the showdown with your brother-in-law over a cheap shot. You don't have to be an ancient sage, but it helps not to act like a rooster in a street fight. My friend, don't you see? Silence isn't weakness. Quite the opposite, it makes you stronger. And this isn't impossible to learn. If you want to hear how real people like you and me, have learned to master that impulse and use silence as a powerful weapon, check out the podcast Silencio by Onda Caro. No gurus, no empty quotes, just stories of people who chose to stay quiet when everything told them to explode, and came out stronger for it. You'll see that silence isn't passivity. It's wisdom, self-control, and often the most stoic answer you can give. And you? Are you ready to make silence your best weapon? Start by noticing when you speak just to fill a void. Sometimes you make a joke, a jab, or share something just to avoid the discomfort of silence. But once you notice it, something shifts. You start speaking with intention, not out of impulse. Next, practice responding with pauses. If someone throws a tough comment your way, breathe for 2 seconds before answering. 2 seconds, not to calm down, but to give yourself the chance to choose. That tiny space is where your mind shows if it's your ally or your enemy. And finally, give yourself permission not to respond. Write it down if you have to. Not responding is still a response. Because no, you're not obligated to answer everything, or to always explain yourself, or to open up to someone who isn't willing to understand. Silence also builds your character, and often it protects it. Maybe the most powerful thing about you isn't your voice, or your perfect argument, or your ability to clap back. Maybe what really shakes people is that you don't need to prove anything, that they can say whatever they want, and you keep eating in peace. Because when your mind is calm, the noise outside can't control you. And in that moment, without saying a single word, you've already won. So far, you've seen how a strong mind isn't built overnight. It's trained, it's tested, it's chosen, every day. But be careful, my friend, because it can also become its own enemy. Because sometimes the harder you push, the more you break. And real strength isn't always about gritting your teeth. It's knowing when to let go. Stick with me, because what comes next isn't about pushing harder. It's about learning to release at the right time, and that, I assure you, is also control. 10. Learn to let go without giving up. Have you ever felt like the harder you try, the less you achieve? Like the more you force your mind, the more it shuts down. As if your head becomes a cage where everything bounces around, except a way out. You've spent days trying to make progress on that personal project, that book you started writing, that business idea that still hasn't come together, that goal you swore you'd reach this month. You open your laptop, grab a coffee, tell yourself, today's the day. But nothing. You push, repeat, force it. And when the frustration chokes you, you slam everything shut and think maybe you're just not cut out for this. But my friend, maybe the problem isn't that you're failing. Maybe you're just ignoring what your mind has been begging you for. To stop. A strong mind isn't the one that pushes the hardest. It's the one that knows when to pause before it breaks. Because your mind is the root of everything. It's what decides whether today you move forward, or beat yourself up for not doing everything perfectly. And that decision doesn't come from shouting. It comes in silence. Sometimes what you need isn't to give up. It's to reset. Give yourself a free afternoon, not to run away, but to breathe. Seneca said it with brutal clarity. Even the strongest tree cannot withstand if it refuses to bend with the wind. And you, how many times have you confused rigidity with strength? Imagine you're gripping a rope that's pulling with all its might from the other side. You hold on, grit your teeth, hang on tight, but the rope, is already cutting into your hands. Is that strength? No, that's wear and tear. Because true strength, the kind that carries you far, is knowing when to let go before it starts hurting you. And no, letting go doesn't mean giving up on your goals. It means taking care of yourself so you can actually reach them. So ask yourself this: what am I forcing today that really needs a pause? Because if you can identify it, you can do something about it. For example, instead of forcing yourself to keep going when you can't even think straight, go for a walk with no destination. No music, no distractions. Let your mind breathe. Sometimes the best ideas don't show up at your desk. They show up between steps when you've stopped chasing them. You can even do something more radical. Give yourself a full day without being productive. Yes, you heard that right. A day just to exist. Read for fun, cook without rushing, sleep without an alarm. The mind needs boredom too, to recharge. And no, it's not a waste of time, it's an investment. And if you're one of those people who can't stop without feeling guilty, try this shift. Stop asking, why am I slowing down? And start asking, why do I feel the need to keep going at this pace? That small change leads you to a truth you might have been avoiding. That often we keep pushing because we're afraid of what we might find if we stop. Your mind, my friend, isn't an engine you can force endlessly. It's your travel companion. And if you don't take care of it, it'll fail you right when you need it most. That's why this matters so much. Stopping is also moving forward. Letting go is also building. Because a mind that allows itself to rest is a mind that's preparing to go further. And in the end, that's the key to everything. Your mind can be the weight that drags you down or the engine that drives you toward your dreams. And that choice is made every day, even when you choose to pause. Because yes, success takes effort, but it also takes silence, stillness, and sometimes a gentle, not today, so that tomorrow you come back stronger than ever. Your mind can be your greatest ally, or your biggest obstacle, and that difference isn't decided by inspiring quotes. It's decided by what you do when no one's watching, by what you choose to think when everything's falling apart, by what you choose to let go of, face, repeat, or stay silent about. Every one of those actions trains your mind, and every day is a new opportunity to make it stronger, clearer, more your own. If you've made it this far, drop this in the comments. I choose to build an unbreakable mind. That way, I'll know who the true Stoic warriors are, the ones who made it all the way to the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button so you don't miss what's coming next. Also, check the description box. We've left some resources there to help you dive deeper into Stoic teachings. Our goal is to bring you as much value as possible. And if at any point you feel like supporting us so we can keep creating this kind of content, you'll find how to do that in the pinned comment. Now, I invite you to explore the playlist on screen. It's designed to help you face life with greater wisdom and confidence. Click it, and let's keep growing together. Until the next talk, take care and keep embracing your inner Stoic.